So for the second year in a row, then Manchester City face Manchester United in the FA Cup final at Wembley. And the build-up to the game has been dominated by the future of Erik ten Hag after reports emerged yesterday that he will be sacked no matter what the result. It echoes what happened 8 years ago when Ten Hag's fellow Dutchman Louis van Gaal led United to victory at the 2016 final, only to be sacked 24 hours later. Speaking ahead of the game, the current Manchester United boss said he believes he has steadied the ship.
We will be in a very different place if we win on Saturday, because we will be in Europe and we have another trophy. But still also 3 finals in 2 seasons. That is very good, I would say, because this club, when I entered here, was not in a good state, absolutely not. And I think we improved a lot. And then even when you consider all the injuries we have, it's a horrible season for us on that fact. And absolutely that had to change. And we have to make our measures in summer to change this.
OK, so that's what Erik ten Hag had to say, and he's talking about making changes in the summer. So on the front of it, it looks as though he's still preparing for life at Manchester United come next season. What have you made of all of this, Cass?
I'm not surprised, because what football is, especially in regards to managers, losing their jobs is quite common. We've seen Poch go this week. We've seen Xavi go at, Barcelona, so an absolute legend at the football club, and others. And it's a merry-go-round of managers. And unfortunately for him, it's not been a good season. Even if you've got injuries, United's squad should be always big enough to challenge. Even if they had 6-7 players out, they could still put a very talented, with a number of internationals in that side, to be competitive. And they've been nowhere near Manchester United. For the standards that were set before, they're well short of that. So
what I'm getting from what you're saying is it's no surprise then that he might not be in a job come the end of the FA Cup final.
You've asked me numerous times over the course of the season, will Ten Hag be at the club in the summer? And I said, no, I don't think he will be. I just can't see it, because it's a club that demands so much from the fan base to the owners or the people involved at the football club, pay huge wages, pay huge transfer fees. They have to be successful and challenging, and they've not challenged in any shape or form this year. They've had some heavy defeats, some poor performances, recruitment that's come in that's not worked. There's been some shining lights. Garnacho's had performances this year, done really well. Mainu's obviously come in. His form dipped at the end of the season. They've got a number of issues who they get rid of out of the club, because obviously contracts are up. So it's been a difficult, challenging season for Ten Hag. But he's sort of hid behind this to some degree. And he's misled his own fan base, in my opinion, because he's been very upbeat about some of the things that have happened. Like he talks about the FA Cup final. Yes, it's an achievement to go there, but it could have ended quite badly against Coventry from being 3-0 up. They've had quite a comfortable, they've had Huddersfield, Wigan, Newport. They've beaten in the early rounds. It was the Liverpool game. They got through. They turned that around. That was probably their best performance in the FA Cup so far. A game that they could have been out of sight for Liverpool. Liverpool had enough chances, and United can give them credit for getting over the line in that game. But so there's a lot of things that have not gone well this year at United.
Let's get the thoughts of one of your friends, your ex-teammate, the former Chelsea midfielder Andy Townsend. He joined Jason Cundy on Drive yesterday, and he thinks Ten Hag should have quit last night.
We seemingly get more of these managers where they are, like the whole world knows they're going. Yep. Even they know they're going. And yet, I tell you what, he'd go up in my estimation if tonight he turned around and said, stick it. Shove it as far as you can stick it, where the sun does not shine and never will. And
wait, hold on. You're just saying, just take the Glazers, right? And to Jim, no, I've had enough. No, you lot deal with this. I'm getting sacked. Go.
Why does that never happen? Why are these managers nowadays forced to be humiliated almost, taking the mickey out of?
Because the money. If he did that, he would lose millions.
He'd lose his right.
So now he's got to suck it up. So now take the humiliation. He's got to take the humiliation, because you know what? He's probably going to get £4.5 million in his bank account.
Well, there you go. It surprises me that someone hasn't done that.
I mean, normally Andy, I think is spot on with a lot of the things he says. I think that would have been quite something if Erik ten Hag was listening and thought, yeah, I'm going to quit as well. Jason pointed out absolutely correctly that if you quit, you're not going to get the money that you get if you're sacked, for example. So at the end of the day, money talks.
I mean, I've known Andy since I was 11.
Yes.
And he's the type of guy, and I witnessed it once on the bus after we got beat by Belgium.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
And he quit, and he was captain. And he wanted to go out on his terms, Andy.
Yeah.
And he always wants to do that. He doesn't want to be told. He's always said to me, I don't want anybody tapping me on the shoulder and going, you're not for me. So he wants to get out before that happens.
But I get what you're saying.
And I understand why he's like, why? Because at the time, I remember thinking, wow, Andy, you've just announced it on the bus leaving. It wasn't. He just felt that it was the right thing to do at that time.
Yeah, and I get that. I get the feeling of it's coming to the end here, and maybe I can't G myself up anymore on the international stage, etc., etc. But there's one thing doing that. I mean, it would have been. He couldn't have done that in his playing career in terms of his club career, did he? He would have at least seen out his contract.
Well, you could go to see the chairman, and you'd say, I want to go. If you
but
think you're on the way
up,
out.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I think Andy was just talking about it from a professional sense.
Yes, I get it. As in
pride
as well,
yeah,
respect.
Yeah,
at
exactly.
The end of the day.
And when the cold light of day is, you look at it and you think, well, it's easy for us to say that, but if you're owed £3 million and you're
this is the difference,
and you're going to get the sack a week later, why would he do that? But I know how Andy thinks, and Andy thinks sometimes it is really about more on his terms than the club's terms.
And I do get it. I understand what Andy is saying, and that is a kind of nicer way of looking at it, because we've spoken and speculated about Erik ten Hag's future for quite a while. And when I say we, that's the media, that's football fans as well. To be building up to an FA Cup final like they are now, and to
by the way, can I just say one quick thing on this? He'll get a job literally the week after.
Well, I'm sure, in a way, I'm sure he will.
I actually will take him back tomorrow.
You're probably right, actually, yes. But my point that I was going to say is that when you're building up to a big game like this and a story like this leaks, that's when you've got to ask questions, haven't you? That's when you've got to be thinking, this is all bad timing. This is not what Manchester United... I mean, if I was a Man United fan right now, I'd be so annoyed that this story has come out, because it's derailing possibly something that they're building up to. Yes, most people on paper will say, look, City are going to walk this one because this is Manchester City. We know what they can do. But still, I'd be so annoyed that this story possibly has been leaked by United sources, that they have decided that regardless of what happens at Wembley later today, he will be gone. I mean, it to me is just nonsensical that someone would put this story out there from within Manchester United.
I totally agree with you that everything you've just said is spot on. But if it doesn't pan out that way, then we've got to be quite responsible within media. If that story doesn't, turn out to be that, they decide to keep him, then that's on us, isn't it, in the media?
Well, yeah, but it'll be spun in that the only way they'd keep him maybe is if he wins it. But judging on what we're hearing,
that's not clever management, is it? To do that,
not.
If you're going to keep someone because you win a game in 90 minutes, that's ultimately decides whether you're the manager for next season. It's just mad to think like that. You decide, you make a decision on someone, and it's got to be over the course of a season.
Have you, in your playing career, ever been in this position where rumours were circulating about your manager, even building up to a huge game? You're thinking he's not going to be in charge come the next day.
I've been there, a couple of times.
So how do you deal with that as a player?
Players normally take a step back because it's out of their control. And that's how I felt. What influence can I have on a manager? Well, the club upstairs, the people in the ballroom, or an owner decides, well, we don't really care about it. They don't care about what we think. That's quite clear. They don't care about the players. Should they care that the players, on them? Yeah. Should they be having an involvement? No, it's the club that needs to make the right decision.
I suppose as well, because this is an FA Cup final, it's a big game, you're still going to be able to motivate yourself, because ultimately a lot of these players want to win an FA Cup. Yeah. A lot of these players have not experienced, obviously, that before. So,
I mean, you've had managers being sacked before a final. It happened to Jose Mourinho.
Yes.
He got sacked before a week. That to me was even worse. Because it was led by the media and probably a bit of truth in it, that there was obviously incentives for Mourinho if he won a trophy. and the club were thinking of sacking him, and they didn't want him to have that. So it's crazy.
It's intriguing in the sense that both these sides come into this Wembley final in contrasting seasons. United struggling, as we said, in the Premier League. Manchester City, on the other hand, won a 4th consecutive title, the first side in English top-flight history to achieve that. And they remain on course to etch their name in the history books on the domestic front for the second time in the space of just 6 days, as they could become the first team to do back-to-back League and FA Cup doubles. If they do that, are we etching them into the history as the greatest Premier League side ever, English side ever?
Well, if you had said to me, of all the teams that have been so successful, and, 99 when United done it and they were so successful and the brilliant football they played, to consider they could do a double and be below par for them, that's extraordinary. It just shows you how good the side is that they can actually be below par and go on and win a double. Because they have been. If someone said to me in the street, you had a conversation with who are football and fans, and you said, do you think City were better last year than this year? I think most people would say, yeah, they were better. And okay,
especially
they won a treble.
Second half of the season,
but City have done it in a way that has just feels like it's at their pace. They've got there in the end, but not had to play scintillating football.
But is that a detriment to the rest of the league then?
No, I just think their standard is so high. Watching them being average and Arsenal being superb wasn't enough for Arsenal to win the league. Yeah. It was extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my answer to you is this team is very functional, but there's moments of brilliance in it, and they have a mentality from the manager through to the players that they can go and still win things with not even being their best.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.